Good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday, September 6th. As Jackie Glass, Bama, Navy vet, certified doer, and the laced up legislator for the House of Delegates, 89th District. How are you this morning? How are you? I hope you're well. Let's get right into it. Today is the first day back to school. And I probably, this week I will be focusing on getting my little citizens prepared and ready for the rest of the week, so you won't have another live for me out of this week, recognizing I have a high schooler that has to be on the bus at 6:30 a.m. I think that's absolutely wild in its own way. And then I have a middle schooler that has to be on the bus at 7:30 something. So let's keep it funky about this school year. One of the biggest concerns I have right now is I'm watching little citizens go to school, and transportation. Good morning, Janice. Good morning. Transportation is probably the biggest thing that we have, just getting our little citizens to where they need to be. The other day, my son got accepted into vocational studies at Norfolk Technical Center. And the educator said, hey, for those of you guys who are bus drivers, I'll see you when you get here. Bus riders, I'll see you when you get here. It's a trickling effect of what's happening for our little citizens. It's a trickling effect for what's happening with our little citizens and the education, because you start the day with somebody like me, and I'm probably pray for your parent friends out here, because I'm already on level 10 with my little citizen about what he's supposed to do and how he's supposed to be ready for school, and alarms not going off and all the things. So there's that. They're walking into that. It's a very stressful, we had a very stressful situation on our block. It's been a really, really, really interesting, and I'm not going to say interesting, it's been a summer of hearing a lot of gunfire, to be quite honest. And as most of you guys know, that my son did have somebody flash a gun this summer with him, and it going into the school situation makes it I think there's a heightened sense of angst where they're trying to hold on to their innocence and things while they try to live everyday lives. And this is not new for a lot of little citizens across the world, right? There's a level of something. So just recognizing that as a society we use this word and we say that village is a verb, this is the absolute time to be villaging. So check on your friends, check on your neighbors, check on their kids, say hello. I forgot that the lady up the street calls my son G, and she said, is G going to school? I need to make sure I check on G. Yep, absolutely. And it is an amazing time to get a sense of community. If you haven't already, right, there are opportunities to volunteer in Norfolk Public Schools, and I recognize that is for the privileged, right? That is for the people who got time, and not everybody got time. But if you go to the NPS website, just making sure that you're at least signed up and get your background check and all that stuff done. So if the opportunity does present itself, that you're ready to go to be able to volunteer. I'm going to say this to parents, right? We are going back to school. Something I always try to remember, but sometimes forget, is a couple things we got to do before we send our little citizens back. One, make sure they have their physicals. Those bugs love to talk, don't they? Make sure they have their physicals, not just their regular physical, but if we're getting into the years, middle school and high school years, get that sports physical. 2, get these kids' eyes checked. Or 3, get these kids' eyes checked. That's a big deal, right? Sometimes we see gaps in things where we don't get our eyes checked as much as we should, and that can create headaches. We're working on that with my littlest one. And also recognizing that they're all getting laptops, and this is a hack, not a hack, but just like a tidbit to everybody that know little citizens that are going to be on these laptops all the time. Even though my children my little citizens did not wear glasses, I got them those blue light glasses. I went to Amazon, bought a couple pair, found some at the CVS or something, the blue light glasses to block the blue light, because they're inside. As a matter of fact, if you're working and you're on a computer all the time, get you some blue light glasses, because the blue light that we're seeing from our phones and our laptops, it's not healthy for us. It's not healthy for us. But this is a time where it goes beyond praying for people. It goes beyond that. It goes into action, because anxiety is high. As a parent, my anxiety is high, letting them leave and not having that control, knowing what's happening. We had a very very violent week, right? Extremely violent week. And look, as a resident of Norfolk, I'm always hyper aware of my chosen hometown, right? Like, we chose this place, and this is segueing in because I'm hyper aware, but I also know that we are in a space that we all love. We don't know why we love this city, but we love it. But we get to see it marketed in the wildest way, right? We get the front page, we get the high news story, we get the light shine. There was a tourist stabbed to death at the ocean front, and I bet you didn't know that, right? Like, specific communities get the bright light. We have students stealing from another team's locker room. That wasn't even the headline, you know what I mean? So I recognize I live in a community where it doesn't matter how good things are here. If anything happens, it's going to be at the top of the line, right? Like, some of you guys live in those spaces and places, and it's fatiguing. But let me tell you, just like many other communities, these things are happening. These things are happening to us. And there's a lot of them. You are amazing. Your neighborhood is amazing. Your community that you've been in are amazing. We just have to keep at that. With that being said, I've had conversation with folks at the state level about the what, so what, now what. And we're piecing together sort of our ask and our needs of, like, here's what communities like ours, you see what's happening, right? Like, we have to use this moment for what it is. You see what's happening. So what, now what? I don't need you to monitor what's happening. I don't need your thoughts. I don't need your prayers. I need your purse, right? I need your purse, because there are some things that I feel like are really important that I know if we put it in the right community's hands, that it will change the trajectory of the community. I know that I can't ask. There's certain things we're not able to ask for because we didn't invest in, as a city. And so recognize, while my work, what I am called to serve you guys to do, is, I think I have to do a lot. This is a perfect opportunity where we'll probably be doing some explaining of how we could work with the local government, why that relationship is important, because recognizing all politics are y'all, if anything should tell you, all politics are local. So the things that we're able to do to bring down, to coordinate, like, I want to see those things happen, and I'm working on those relationships to make sure that I am not doing a disservice to you all at the state level, and being helpful with the local level, being of service to you. With that being said, with the incident on my block, many of you guys know, I'll let the bus go by. That's my bus driver. Okay. With the incident that happened on my block, right? One of the young men that was arrested has had trouble since I moved in April. So when I moved in 2016, and I'm not going to say his name, but when I moved here in 2016, one of our first altercations that we had here was with this young man and my son. First one, grandma pulled up. They ready to go at it, and I was like, hold up. I don't solve children's problems. I need these two kids to talk about what happened. What happened is they stood there, they did conflict resolution, grandma found out that, hey, baby boy started some stuff, and my boy went back at them. They both made substandard decisions to mitigate the conflict, right? So we handle it there, and they do the things, but this young man consistently throughout the years had issues, right? So much so that where I as his neighbor, ended up talking to the principal, talking to the parents liaison, talking to other neighbors who were like, hey, we seeing him at night out at 11 o'clock at night. Like, this is not cool for an elementary school student. He stole a car, like, and ran it into a garage before school while in elementary school. So it's been a journey, right? Everyone tried to get this kid help in some way, shape, or form. The principal, the parent liaison, the neighbor across the street, myself. And at every turn, we were told he hadn't done anything bad enough to get the help that he needed. His mother was incarcerated. She came back. His attitude got worse. Grandma would come by the house and say, hey, he beat me up. He kicked my car. He keyed my car. He did all these things. But we couldn't get him the help that he needed, the deep help he needed, because he hadn't done anything bad enough. And so we've been processing, and I've talked to my team, I've talked to police officers, I've talked to some of my friends that are in the social services areas, like, how do we prevent crime when we create a high barrier to getting resources that would prevent crime? What is that? How do we get told, we can just send him to an alternative school and, for a period of time for attendance, because he would walk out of school. And so now this young man is in the system, with a police involved shooting, stolen cars. Like, this is real. And so as we process, as we sort of think about what crime prevention looks like, and I'm calling to you guys too, as we look at what crime prevention looks like, I think that we, society-wise, and whether that's state level activities or funding for localities or for school systems, we have to really think about what barriers we're creating for people like that young man to get help before they do something like this. Because, like, I think I remember being, not shocked, but when I'm talking to the parent liaison, he's like, Miss Glass, I chase him. He leaves school, I have to run after school after him. If you see him in the neighborhood, just give me a call, let me know. Just let me know. And those sorts of things. So do I know if he had intense or home counseling? I don't know that. I just know that we did. Like, it's wild that the only alternative was to send him to Madison, and then he comes back, and then the cycle starts all over again. And I don't think that he's in high school yet. He may be maybe like in 7th or 8th grade, or maybe a freshman. COVID took some years from us. So as we process, right, like, as your representative, right, as I process folks coming at me and saying, hey, we're looking at how we can help and how we can do things, those are the sort of things, is the crime prevention piece, right? How do we prevent, especially with young people? And I hear everyone talking about the rec centers. I hear these things, but I know that not every kid wants to be at a rec center, right? So I'm looking for more than that. Like, there has to be more than just asking localities to open up rec centers and realizing everything comes at a cost, but we're trying to fix something when we're hemorrhaging. So there's that piece of what we do for the littlest of citizens that we see need those interventions prior to them doing something criminal. Number two, I listened to the local level this past weekend and what was said, and I'm thinking about how we've been hemorrhaging police officers since 2019, right? This is before the pandemic. We were hemorrhaging. We were getting, I remember there being a report of, like, we're down like 100 officers, something like that. There was something prior to the pandemic where we were down. And so when you continue to hemorrhage, and now we just have people for patrol, and that you compound that with, maybe because we just have enough people for patrol, we don't have enough people for casework. And when we don't have enough people for casework, then we're not able to do the prosecutions that we need, because we don't have the evidence or the things that we need to prosecute on the side. And, like, it's a trickling effect that's going to take a sizable amount of shift and time. So what we're seeing, at least from my purview, and I can be stood corrected, is that what we're going through is, it's not a 1-year fix, it's not a 2-year fix, it's not a 3-year fix, probably not a 4-year fix or a 5-year fix. When you're looking at us almost being down 300 officers, right? We're almost down like we're in the high 200s, and I don't know the hard number, and I'll get that. And you're looking at us not necessarily having the preventions with the connection in the neighborhood, because as I told you guys before, while this was like, I don't want to call it a freak, but it's like the neighbors, as I walked the block and talked to neighbors the other day, they were like, yo, we knew something was up. Something was weird about 2 weeks ago. And I think I said that on the live the other day. Like, we all kind of sense something's different is happening, and we didn't necessarily have the resource. And I don't foresee us having that resource back. I think we have 3 community resource officers in the entire city right now. And I don't see that coming back for there being a need. But we want our officers to be able to operate and operate safely too, right? So there's that piece. If we're low, right, and now they're operating in the streets where a cop just got shot, they're shooting all the time, like it's just random and things like that. So then they're operating from a high sense of adrenaline, and I want to make sure that they're not operating overwork, because that hinders their ability to make decisions, right? That it hinders their ability to make good decisions. So that's real. Like, that's something that holding all of that in my hands, right, with you all, because this is a team sport. I just get to be team captain, right? So which means I do have to independently come up with strategy, which you already knew our agenda was public safety. That's what we're going to be at. And, hold on, I'm doing a time check on myself, okay? That's where our heads are. We already had that in our minds, and had been working on that since the beginning of the summer. But I want our best consultants are you all. Right, my best consultants are the citizens in the community. So just like Denise just said, hey, did you think about intensive in-home counseling, right? Medicaid pays for it. Nope, didn't even think about that. Nope. Didn't even think about it. She said they should have did a referral to get him help at 5 years old for 101 in home. Yeah. Didn't even know about that resource. So there's that piece of the expectation, and think about that piece where, what Denise brought up was really good about, 5 years old going through, we send him to school, right? And we send a person like this young man I talked about, we send him to school, and then in school realize who's interacting. The guidance counselor's interacting, the parent liaison, the principal, the other students are interacting, and do we have the language and the things that we need to be able to help young folks like this? Yep. They offer service. This is an opportunity. This is a great opportunity for us to think about non-policing measures to public safety. And I want y'all to think about that. If I'm able to get on Thursday, I'm just not making a promise, because this week I am focused on my little citizens. I'm going to get in the house and spend this next 30 minutes with my youngest to get her ready and hype and setting her intentions for school. But I want you all to really consider what for you, and you can drop them in the comments, what for you are the best non-policing elements that we can implement to public safety, right? Because we don't have the force right now, and they're working hard. I've seen, and had conversations just recently with, cops patrolling the neighborhood, and they look tired. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing like, yo, this is not. Many of us are working. If you, and I see my military buddy on there. We went through a program in the military that was called OME, and it was called the Optimal Manning. The Optimal Manning Experiment. That's what it stands for. Where we optimally manned our ships with the least amount of possible people to see how well we can do the job. The least amount. And I just remember people, like, we were hemorrhaging people left and right, and the level of fatigue that happened when you not only have to do your job, which many of us had to do, right, on the ship. This is the Navy did this back in 2005, and we lost people, but we still had a mission, right? We still had to keep this ship afloat. We still had to do maintenance. We still had to do collateral duties. We still had to eat. Some of us were in school at the same time. You know, like there were still the expectations to get all these things, do more with less. And when you do more with less, you do need to get innovative to be able to fill in those gaps of things that the must-dos, right? So that we don't sink our ship. And that's what we're trying to do right now, is that what are the must-dos that we have to do right here in the city of Norfolk so we don't sink this ship. And so that is where you all come in. That is where you can be the greatest asset. What are some, and I'm saying this again, what are some non-policing measures that we can do to improve public safety, right? I'm already in the books. I've read the 21st Century Policing Report and thought about what that looks like. But this is the best opportunity that we're have. We're down almost 300. This is probably the only time where we can sit and say, we can't take anything from our officers that they don't have, right? But we can take care of what we do have. So how do we take care of what we do have, right? Because again, I don't want tired, exhausted officers on the street and their mental health is. And these are things that you all, because remember, understanding what I am capable of doing at the state and what has to happen at the local level, that these are things that you can take as recommendations. And I would love to, and I think that's something that we should do as a community, is really brainstorm these non-policing measures to public safety, because it is going to take all of us, because we don't have enough of that. And recognizing, like we've said for years, that the only way to improve public safety, it's not just policing, right? I see some comments here. I'm going to say, good morning. Yup, getting back to school. Getting back to it. Thank you for that resource, Jay. Yeah, that's a really good resource. It's a sad truth. Hold on, I'm looking. Yep, first day back, we said that. Charlene, start with teaching parents to respect everyone at a young age. I admit that I'm old school. Yes, I hear my old schoolers. I hear it, right? About the respect. What I don't want to do, and this is a hard thing to do as you get more seasoned and you start seeing, like I think about who I was as a teenager, right? And now parenting a teenager and how some of the same things my parents said, they correlate sometimes and sometimes they don't, right? Like there's a lot of that. And so like recognizing respect is a minimum, but I just want us to be mindful, and I say this to anybody who starts, saying parents are the problem. Want to be mindful that oftentimes we find ourselves wrapped up in putting that label on the masses when 10% of folks are the problem. And I say this as when I was an educator, I would have a class of about 22 students, or 20 to 22 students, and there were 2 students in every class that were either that they just didn't want to do the work, they held up class doing all these things, and those 2 students, that 10% of my class, took up 90% of my time. Right? Writing counseling chits, doing remediation, getting into mandatory or voluntary study. That's 10%. And so that happens in our communities, is that we get this small stipend of people, right? This 10% that get 90% of our energy for the bad things they're doing, and not recognizing the 90% that are doing very well with their little citizens, that are doing very well in the community. And so parents like myself, right, who are working really hard and have set in these spaces where they're like, you parents this, you parents that, feel indicted, even though I'm not doing it, right? Even though like I'm doing my best, and my son cut up in middle school, and he got up. We're doing all that we can do. So I just want to figure out how we can have parents be more participatory, rather than go to the extreme right and say, well, they got the right to tell us what to do, or the extreme left and say, well, they ain't doing nothing no way because they not teaching respect, right? How do we create a participatory process where we can be supportive of parents and parents can co-parent with teachers, because that's ultimately what we're doing, and that added value can happen and teach the level of respect that's needed for our littlest of citizens, right? So I honor that statement. I honor that statement. Ronald, yup, unfortunately those boards I was on, yes, we did. Unfortunately, I was on the boards and it affected my workload. Yeah, Ron, talking about that optimal manning. And you know what, Ron, what I think with the optimal manning experiment that the military did, I think I may try to go look up some of the outcomes from OME just to see some lessons learned, because I think within, and again, I don't have any control. I am not your local government person. I can advocate just like you can to our city manager. I can advocate to my council representatives. I can advocate and have conversations with our mayor, right? Like, we all can do that. But the end-all decisions of what happens, the so what now what, are in the hands of our local elected, right? So we owe it to them as residents, because I'm living this just like you are. So we will not be silent. Like, we're in this just like you are. So of how we can be an added value to help in their decision making. Being back brother, yeah, I did brothers and sisters when I was a kid. When I was young, I was a kid. Mentoring program, Man Up, meets the first round. Okay, so Lamont. Hey, I love it when you put resources there. If you guys know any, can you put the ages on that for Lamont, for your mentoring program that happens, that meets the first and third Tuesdays at 6 p.m. at Avoni Cafe. I hope I said that right. That put the age groups in there, so when people come back they can see those age groups, all those community groups that they gave away book bags, and now mentors in schools. Yes, okay, so that's a good point, Miss Charlene. So if you know, and I'm gonna wrap this up, if you know an organization that was giving out backpacks, remind them. Vince put the link in here that, hey, sign up to be able to help out in the schools, get your background check and stuff done, because there will be a need. We know that, right? Teacher respect continues to be important. Yup. Parents need support too. That 10% is needed. That's, yup. And that is equity. So we do need the resources to be able to be of service. Yup. Needs mentor program for young parents that aren't, yup. Yeah. So Noling ST said, far too many have no direction, thus this is passed into the children. I'm on a board to help where I can. Yeah, tell me what board you're on. And then Max says, I've been following the talks of the interview with former Chief Broom. He is correct. The right folks need to talk that relates to the street in Chicago. It's called Back on the Block. Yeah, and that's why we started. And I don't know if you guys can see this. Actually, I'm going to get this together. Try not to make sure, my elders be worried about me. I've been getting earfuls all week. But that's why we started this, right? And I'll show you my little flag here. It's called the Mob, Mamas on the Block. Right? That's the whole purpose of the mob, was mamas taking back the block and being the added value. And I fly that flag, and I want to get more women particularly taking their block. That is what we do, is that we be the resource, right? We be the light, and you can see the shift. I promise you, I felt it, that we need more mamas on the block. And that's no disrespect to any dudes, but I'll tell you, many of these organizations that I'm seeing with data-driven results, it's been these mothers that have just been pushing the pace, not funded, not nothing, doing the damn thing. And oftentimes when we talk about that person, because everybody wants to know who's the mayor of that block, who's the mayor of that neighborhood, oftentimes, this is not offensive, you have a dude wearing a title and a woman somewhere doing the work. That's just what, and I'm not saying that's the thing all the time. I'm not saying it's all the time, but that's what I've encountered in particularly in our city. And I'm like, yo, these mamas got to take back this block. And it doesn't have to be a mother, right? I've had women that were mamas on the block that were just mothering women that really cared about the livelihoods of people. This group started from my race when I ran for school board. What I would do is I would knock the first door on the block, and I would meet Heather. Heather would tell me all her issues with the school system and the things she was going through with her kids. And then I would go 4 doors down, and I meet or meet Quita, and Quita would be like, oh, here are my issues, and it's the same issues as Heather. And I'm like, did you talk to the lady down the street, because she got the same thing? And our goal was to never let a parent show up to an IEP meeting alone, because that can be stressful. Like, if we can, as a community, someone comes and shows up as support, not just for that parent, but to show that school system that this child has a support system. And so that's what we're working. That's what the mob was about. And we need more mobs, to be quite honest. Yup. It's the grandmas and the aunties left holding the bag. Yup. Yeah. And that's a piece too. Let me just tell you before I wrap this up, is that what I will do is there's several things, is that we will, and my team and I have already, I know I'm probably getting ahead of myself, so team, if you see this, don't be mad at me. I know we talked about, me and the big guy talked about this yesterday, is that we will be having citizen consultants, because you guys know how to care for the community better than anybody else. So what we're looking at ways that we can make you all our best consultants, and I expect to see you guys. Like, I expect for y'all to show up and be like, so you need to be thinking about those non-policing measures to public safety, right? Be thinking about the resources that you know, because I've heard a lot of great resources in this I've heard a lot of great resources in this feed that you all know, that maybe communities need to know, that maybe schools need to know, what that looks like. That we got to do this. This does have to be a collective experience to advocate for our communities, our schools, to our local leaders, so that they can hear us from a place of truth, right? Book bad neededs are needed, but yep, I appreciate that. I have been following the talks. Yep, you said that. I got making sure I get everything, but I got to get in this house. Grandmas can help too. And Lisa, let me say this. Remember the young man I was telling y'all about? His grandmother was his primary caretaker, and she needed help. And I've got a couple grandmothers that are raising grandchildren and children in the neighborhood that also need support, right? That genuinely need grandparent support. I have some single fathers in the neighborhood that need support. And so we have to also think about that. We don't want to get, again, we're not going to, we want to know, we know that we've got the 10%. But as we're working on the 10%, the solutions for the 10%, let's not forget about the 90 that get lost in between. So got an amazing guy down the street with a daughter, dope guy, takes care of his kids, got a boy in college doing the daggum thing. I know he's stressed out. I know he is. When I see him, I'm just like, can I get you some water? Can I help? How can I help? When I see grandma on that porch with that, on the porch, just trying to figure it out with that kindergartner, I think she's in first grade now. I'm like, you need some books? Do we need it? Like, that part too. We got to take care of those who need us. So anyway, I'm out. It's Jackie Glass, Mama Navy Vet, certified doer just like you, right? Certified doer just like you, because we be getting up, doing the things, ready to take some next steps, right? With you, right? We've got to help our local leaders. I've got to be of service in a way that supports a better quality of life for all of us, because whether we know it or not, this is happening to all of us, okay? The city's getting smaller, and that's a beautiful thing, because we're becoming a village. We care about what's happening, even if it's not in our neighborhood. So I will see you all, right? I will see you all sooner than later. That was a bug. They get me, y'all. They get me. All right, y'all make it a great day. Tell a kid that you love them, even if they get on your nerves. All right. All right. Take care.